Hey everybody, welcome to Twanger's Turntable. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new, I hope you'll find something you'll dig. You'll stick around. If you're returning, much appreciate you doing so over and over and over again. It's really appreciated. So it's been a while since I've done one of these episodes. What I'm going to do today is a show and tell. In fact, I haven't done one of these show and tells in nobody's vault but mine since October 31st, Halloween of 2025. So that's a long time ago. So if you watched that episode, great. If you didn't, you can check it out. I have a playlist of show and tell. This will be episode 11 of Nobody's Vault But Mine here at Twanger's Turntable. You can check that out if you'd like. And so I think where I left off there is I was approaching the end of the pile of stuff that I had not shown. I had picked up all these records in the span of probably about a year, and I was going through them. There was a lot going on, so for reasons I'm not going to get into, I wasn't doing a lot of those type of videos. I was doing a lot of shorts, which kind of ironically is what I've been doing recently as well, but that's fine. So I'm going to do a full video here of some recent pickups, and again, I use that word loosely because they're new to my headquarters here at Twanger's Turntable, but they're not necessarily new. With a few exceptions, but those are notable, and I'll make a point of mentioning that. So let's just get to it. I watched my buddy Brett do his recent pickups, recent finds, and it had inspired me to do another episode that I had been doing as well. So I decided to do the tag that I'd done recently first and then come back to this. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to start off with something from Brett. This was an EP, Metallica's Creeping Death, that I had back in the mid 80s. And I think I mentioned it when I did that video that I had lost it at a house party. And I know that's when it occurred. I even had my suspicions of who it was, but you know how it is. There's no proof. If there's no proof, anyway, maybe my Canuck friends will get that. You got to have proof. If there's no proof, there's no proof. Then you can't really, make those accusations. So I didn't. I let it go. And but 40 years on, I finally have it back in my collection. And thank you so much, Brett. I know I've mentioned to you, I've expressed to you my gratitude, but really, man, I really wanted that. It doesn't quite complete my Metallica collection. I mean, that's a can of worms. I mean, Pandora's box, really. There's so many. If you want to get in on all the bootlegs and what, it's kind of like Iron Maiden or any of those iconic bands, Zeppelin, whoever, right? You can go on and on and on. I'm not that type of collector. I'm not even a completist. If there's sections of a band's catalog that I'm not that crazy about, I don't need to own it. I know some people need to own everything. I don't, but I am very grateful to have that. Thanks, Brett. Another one he sent me was, I mentioned these guys before. I was never a huge fan of this band back in the 80s. I thought they were similar to Bon Jovi and many bands of that ilk. Although I've always said that George Lynch is an amazing guitar player. I still think that, but there's just something about the vocals that doesn't grab me like some of the other classic 80s metal bands. I like it, and I'm very grateful to have it. And so what I do with these VCLT I receive, I've got notes in there of whom sent it and when, and these will always be treasured. So thanks again, Brett. Speaking of VCLT, another one I got from our buddy Brian over at the Bearded Italian, who's on hiatus right now, but I still encourage you to go check out his channel, subscribe to him. He recently split up his channels. He's an Okie. He's down there in Oklahoma, and he does a lot of barbecuing, and he's quite a chef. Go check him out for yourself. But he's also very musically, gifted, if you will. He plays guitar. He's got a lot of audio gear that he shows on his channel and records. And he sent me this Kiss record because I didn't have it, and I'm not a huge Kiss fan. Full disclosure, there's a lot of their stuff I could take it or leave it, especially after 1983 probably. That would have been Lick It Up. That's probably the last record I ever bought by them. I heard others, and it just didn't move the meter for me. So, but the early Kiss, my older brothers had it. It was always on play. So yeah, Hotter Than Hell, I think, which is their second. It's funny because I looked this up in Discogs and they re-released it, I guess, in 78 as well, which is confusing because I also got this not that long ago, which is their debut. This says 74 and this says 74. So not a Kiss expert by any means, but I'm pretty sure this came and then this came, because at least that's how I remember it. And then my brothers also had two more. These were on 8-track. One of them I've had, thanks to my bestie. She had this record, but it is beat to hell. I mean, it was really bad shape. So I finally got another copy of Destroyer, which is probably my favorite Kiss record. And only because it's probably the one I've heard the most. I don't know. It was, all my buddies had this record. So yeah, other than, you know, I'm not a big ballads guy, like the whole Beth thing. I'm, you know, even though Peter Criss, it's almost like blasphemy to say that, being the drummer, but yeah, I'm glad to finally have a good copy. I did listen to many of these recently because I want to go through them. There's another Kiss one I've got here that I've never even heard before, and full disclosure, I haven't even listened to it yet since I got it, but I plan to do that soon. The next one I got from Kiss was Dynasty, which was 79, I guess, eh? You Kiss, the Kiss Army would know this like the back of their hand, but that's not me. Yeah, so up until this point, I'm pretty sure it was all the original 4 members, because I know after that there's some question whether or not who appeared on the record, other than Paul and Gene were, I think, the consistent people on all the records, but I'm not so sure about Ace and Peter. But anyway, I don't need to get into all that detail. Most of you will already know that stuff far better than I will. And then I came across this, which was at a thrift store. My bestie and I, we go over to these thrift stores, and that's where I got these other Kiss records. Actually, I forgot to mention that. And there was about 4 Kiss records there. Once in a while, you'd get lucky because they're all in really good shape. Somebody must have just brought them in and clearing out their collection. But this is a single. One side of it is actually blank. There's nothing on it. It says special one-sided record, but the other side is from that Dynasty, their disco era, we used to call it, was I Was Made for Loving You. So yeah, that was a pretty cool find. And then the one I was talking about, which was also in that pile, I've never heard this record. I've seen it lots in the vinyl community, and it's The Elder. So this would have come before Creatures of the Night, I guess. Because I do like Creatures of the Night, and I do like Lick It Up. But this one, let me see here. I think this is 80, 81. I know there's probably lots of you on watching this screaming right now that I don't know that. 1981. Yeah, so I've never heard this record. I've never even streamed it, nothing. So probably up until the last few years, watching my buddies like Aaron and JC and guys like that, I didn't even know it existed because I'm not a huge Kiss fan. I never was, right? Aside, as I mentioned, from the early or mid 70s, like all my buddies were that got into hard rock. Kiss was just part of that scene. So moving on, another one I've been wanting for a long time. I pre-ordered this. When did I receive it? Sometime before Christmas. It's the tribute to Metallica's Kill 'Em All, No Life to Leather. A bunch of different artists on there, and it's really good. I really like it, so glad to have that. Next up is the 40th anniversary of, talk about another album that I just, when it came out, the anticipation of this, because I was a big fan at the time, Shout at the Devil was probably one of my favorite albums ever at that time, especially. And then the anticipation to Theater of Pain. And then when this came out, I couldn't stand it. I just was like, what the hell is this, you know? So 40 years on, I've grown to like it a little more. There's certainly some tracks in there I can tolerate, whereas at the time, I did not like it at all. I didn't like the smoking in the boys' room, the Brownsville Station cover. I just, yeah. So, but yeah, it was a pre-order. I got that one too. So, and that was inspired by Brett as well. I seen Brett show that, and he was talking about, you know, he's a huge Crew fan. So, got to give a shout out to Brett on that one. And then this, I always wanted this edition. Well, at least this cover. It's not the original edition. Unfortunately, these boots is the, what do they call it? The Final Kill remix or whatever, which arguably to many sounds better. The mastering is better, but I don't care about that. I've mentioned that before. I remember this is the first Megadeth album I ever heard when it came out, and so kind of that part of it is more important to me. That's the way I remember hearing it. So, but that's not it. But the album art, I've always preferred this album art. I know I'm a bit of a contrarian there. Well, at least from other people in the VC talk about, they prefer they're on Mustaine's side of that, where he wanted the Final Kill album art. But I prefer this. As cheesy it is, whatever, I don't care. That's the way I remember it, so I prefer that. And then the new one, I pre-ordered that long ago, finally got it. I was itching to get it because there was lots of people out there showing it, and I made a commitment to myself. I wasn't going to stream any of the songs. There was lots of the tracks being dropped early, yes, before the album came out. I didn't listen to any of them on YouTube or anywhere. And so when I listened to it first, it was truly a virgin listen on vinyl. Me and my bestie came down, we listened to it, and we both really dig it. So I would suggest it's probably the best Megadeth album to me since, maybe Countdown to Extinction. That might be blasphemous to some. Rust in Peace, maybe. I don't know. I do like Cryptic Writings. I've got almost all the Megadeth on CD, but it's the best one in a long time, put it that way. So really glad to finally have that. It was hard watching everybody else unbox theirs and do their, their opinions on it. I watched Trevor at Flout Round and Spun, and Brett as well. Thankfully, I know those guys. There was no spoilers. They were just talking about their vibe listening to it, and it was stuff that's in their wheelhouse. So there was no spoilers on it, which was nice. So, and then I got this. This is the debut from Forbidden Evil, which was what they were going to go by, the classic Bay Area thrash band. For those who have watched me for a long time, you'll recall 3 or 4 years ago, I got the follow-up to this, and there was a blemish in the vinyl. They had a huge click at the end, so I decided to send it back, and when I sent it back, they had no more stock. I couldn't replenish it. They couldn't send me another one, and I've never been able to find another one. So I really like this. I dig this album, yeah. It's unfortunate I don't have the other one. Not the other one. They have lots of them, but those are my favorites. And then Testament, arguably my favorite Testament. This is a reissue. Another one that I had reordered last year. I pre-ordered, sorry. And I waited and waited and waited. Watched people unboxing theirs. Mine would never arrive. Funny enough, I would look online and see there was plenty available, but yet I wasn't receiving mine. Finally, I canceled the pre-order. I said, hell with it. I'm not waiting. And then stuff happened in life that things got busy and it wasn't a priority. So, but I finally did get it last fall, and yeah, it's really good. I think Legacy is probably my favorite. I don't know, but certainly this one would have gotten lots of spins back then. Practice what you preach. It's a great album. And then I never had these, kind of rounding out my Priest collection. I'm not a completist on Priest. There's lots I don't have. I don't have any of the Ripper owned stuff. On vinyl, I should clarify, on vinyl. So I'm talking vinyl here. And I never had these. So I picked this up recently, Ram It Down, which is basically the remainder of the sessions they did for Turbo. Turbo, people who know Priest, was going to be a double album. Double turbo, but it never came to be. So essentially this is the leftover tracks from that session. And yeah, it shows. I was never a huge fan of the Turbo album. That's kind of where I jumped off with Priest as well. Too much synth, too many keyboards, and it just went, it was kind of a byproduct of the times there in the mid 80s. A lot of bands were doing that. Maiden did it with Somewhere in Time, which I wasn't a fan of either. Anyway, I'm going off the rails here, but I finally got that. It's okay. It certainly won't be one of the Priest ones I spin that often, but I'm glad to have it. And then Painkiller one. This is much better, in my opinion, than that one. But that's it. That's basically the episode 11 of Show and Tell. The new additions for Nobody's Vault But Mine here at Twanger's Turntable. I'm going to do a couple of more episodes, and then I will be able to release them all in sequence without them being too long, because we're approaching, 15 minutes here or so. So I'll leave it at that. I hope you dug that. If you have any comments or any of these your favorites or least favorites, good discussion. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. I hope to see you on the next one, folks. Take care And until then, cheers, everyone.